Hi, this is Jen Grisanti of Jen Grisanti Consultancy, Inc. And I'm so excited to begin this journey on my Storywise TV Spec and Pilot Teleseminar. Welcome to each and every one of you. Your energy is going to be tremendous in the outcome of this program. So I encourage everyone to participate in the private Facebook page and get to know one another. Share your story, share where you're at in your writing, post when you need something. You're going to be shocked at how close this community is going to get over the next 10 weeks. So I do encourage everyone to interact. So to give you a little bit of information about the framework of this program, you're going to receive instructional videos every week where we go over the points of that week, and we go over story. My hope is that in this year that we can go over some clips and discuss them and really dive deep into what makes story work. Level 1 gets to participate in everything. So the only difference with people at level 1 is you get to, instead of turning in assignments, you'll turn in a 1 to 2 page pitch document for your pilot at any point during the next year. So this is available to you. Plus, like all levels, you'll get to hear all of the recordings and the handouts and the instructional videos, and you'll get to pitch. Level 2, you'll have a one-on-one consult. If you haven't booked this, I highly recommend that you do. I think I have maybe 1 slot left in May. I'm not even sure if I have that slot left. So I do highly encourage you to book it. If there's no big rush because you're not joining the fellowships, and you think you'll be ready in June, then email me so that you can book your consult. Level 3 will be turning in material every week, the concept, the outline, 3 drafts of the script, going through the process again. This year is different. I've given level 3 the option of doing a spec and a pilot script, or doing 1 pilot script during the 10 weeks, or doing 2 pilot scripts during the 10 weeks. I know that the climate is shifting, so that the only real people that are reading spec scripts are for the writing fellowships. So the pilot is taking on a much more dominant role. So this is why I wanted to give people the option this year. We will definitely be discussing both drama and comedy, even though I only had drama people submit scripts for level 3. So for this reason, I will be rotating in someone from any of the levels. Obviously, the higher levels will have some seniority, but I will be open to all levels, and for rotating in 4 times during the 10 weeks, a comedy script. So I will announce this at the end of the classes, where the following week I am going to be taking on somebody from the group. So listen for this. This again will be announced at the end of the class preceding when the person will rotate in. And if you have any questions, know that you can post them on the private Facebook page. Certainly during the teleseminar, the questions will probably be more toward the end of the class, but if there are some during, I will try to get to them. I love this journey. I love everything about the transformation that is going to take place in getting to know and understand story. And through my system, which I've been in the business for almost 25 years now, my hope is that I am going to elevate you to the next level so that it can lead you to selling your script, staffing, and getting into the writing programs. I've had tremendous success from this program. I've had people get into every single writing fellowship. This was a really good year, particularly for people who participated at level 3 in the last 2 years. So congratulations to all of them. And I actually have somebody who's on the verge of selling a pilot who was at level 3 a couple years ago. So all very exciting stuff. And know that take on the attitude and the belief of why not me? It could be any single one of you that could sell a pilot, that could staff, that could get into a writing fellowship. So put the work in, do the emotional and spiritual work along the way, and I guarantee you that you will see results happen. So now we are going into the portion of, let's see. Okay. So we are going into the presentation portion. This, as I mentioned, is my Storywise TV Spec and Pilot Teleseminar. The first 5 weeks used to be considered the Spec portion, but now it's actually the Spec and Pilot portion, since we have 4 people, and 2 of those 4 people are sticking with the pilot script. My goals for this program are to give instruction on writing a concept sheet, to discuss the spec script writing process, to give you tools on story structure, and to help you to know how to utilize your voice. We are going to go into different sections. First, we're going to discuss concept sheets, writing the TV spec. I'll throw in some stuff on voice, and we will discuss story structure. Who am I? I am a story career consultant, international speaker, writing instructor for Writers on the Verge at NBC, and blogger for the Huffington Post. And I am the author of 3 books: Storyline, Finding Gold in Your Life Story, TV Writing Toolkit, How to Write a Script That Sells, and Change Your Story, Change Your Life, A Path to Your Success. My career, I started as an assistant to Aaron Spelling. I rose through the ranks of current programming and was the head of current programming my last 2 years at Spelling, covering shows including 90210, the original, Melrose Place, the original, Charmed, and every show that Spelling did between 1994 and 2004. Aaron Spelling was my mentor for 12 years. He taught me everything about stories. So he was a significant part of my learning on what makes story work and what makes story not work. In 2004, I was promoted to Vice President of Current Programming at CBS Paramount. I covered shows there, including Medium, Numbers, NCIS, The 4400, and Girlfriends. I staffed over 15 top primetime shows in my career. So what this means, like when you're a current programming executive, you oversee the entire creative process as soon as a pilot goes from a pilot to a series. So it shifts from the development department into the current programming department when the pilot goes to a series. And then my job was to cover the showrunners, staff, writers, and directors, and work on the showrunners with the studio and the network on the concept, the outline, and several drafts of the script before it hit the screen. So this was tremendous training for story and for seeing what worked and what didn't work. In 2008, I opened my own company, Jen Grisanti Consultancy, Inc., JGCI is a consultancy for writers. I specially design one-on-one consults to fit the need of the writer. I draw from my experience as a studio executive for over 12 years at CBS, Paramount, and Spelling, where I staffed top primetime shows and launched countless writing careers. Since opening my company, I've worked with over 800 writers in TV features and novels. Since starting my company, I have helped staff over 80 writers and have worked on developing over 650 pilots. 44 writers I've worked with have sold pilots, and 5 of those have gone to series. Over 100 of my writers have placed in or won writing competitions. My philosophy: the development of your story depends on the development of yourself. In story, as in life, we move from the ego to the spirit to the philosophical. We evolve. So to start to grasp the idea of this, some of what I teach is that when the hero is going after the goal, in the first half of the story, sometimes 3/4, the hero is the desire is more ego connected than it is spirit connected. And through the hero hitting obstacles and stakes being raised, the hero gets humbled, and in getting humbled, moves into the spirit. So around the halfway to 3/4 point of the story, the hero recognizes that the achievement of the goal isn't just about him or her, it's about the greater good. So when I'm talking about this, this is what I'm referring to. You're definitely going to hear me talking about this a lot during the next 10 weeks. Overview of the course. For each class, I will send you a half-hour instructional audio link. Actually, it's going to be video this year of our class. I will give notes to the people at levels 3 on the call. There will be a guest speaker who will listen to 5 pitches that are 3 minutes in length, and you will receive feedback. Questions you will get to ask about any story questions that you may have, no matter what level you are. And this will be either during or after the teleseminar on Facebook. And obviously, I am here for you during these 10 weeks. I'm here for you always. Intentions to guide you through the script writing process from the studio executive perspective, to give you an opportunity to know what it is to be in a writer's room, to show you how to do script notes, to form a community of writers. What you're going to find out about this community is this is going to go on and on. I have friendships that form that go on a very long time. I have writing groups that form. I have writing partnerships that form. I'm sure I have a few love connections in there over the years. So just be open to the whole creative process. And the last of my intentions is to help you to believe in your gift. Belief is everything to your success. If you don't believe in your talent, no one else will. So that is part of the emotional work during this program. Motivation. Success seems to be connected with action. Successful people keep moving. They make mistakes, but they don't quit. There's a quote by Conrad Hilton. Strategy. What is your plan of action to complete this course? What are your daily, weekly, and monthly goals? Map out your directions. I want you to view yourself as the active hero in your story during this course. So the series trigger is that you're being faced with a 10-week course where the dilemma is, will you have the time to get 2 scripts done? And the goal is to get those 2 scripts done. So if you map out your strategy, this is going to help you to attain that goal. Strategy, quote, a vision without a strategy remains an illusion, by Lee Bowman. So keep that in mind. Strategy is about setting yourself apart from the competition. It's not a matter of being better at what you do. It's a matter of being different at what you do. This is by Michael Porter. This is everything when it comes to a writer. You are different because of your voice and because of your way that you see the world. So understanding how to tap into this is what's going to make the difference. Okay, so this week we are dealing with the concept sheet formulas vary for this. So just recognize this as every single week is a stepping stone in the process. So the concept sheet, I never want you to feel like, oh my God, it has to be this way, or therefore I'm wrong, because that's not the case. When you look at the creative process, you have some writers who go from the concept sheet to the script and skip the outline. Now, in this course, we are definitely going to do the outline, because at the studio, most studios and networks insist that the creative process goes from the concept to the outline to the script. So that is what we will be following. For your concept sheets, I like the following formula: strong log line for each story arc, and a breakdown in a paragraph of each storyline. So you could either do that, or you can do a log line for each story arc and write a paragraph for each act. Be clear on what the trigger, dilemma, and pursuit is in each arc. Research. Know the show that you are writing. If you can't get produced copies of the script, break down several episodes yourself. Know whether the show has an A, B, and C story or just one story. So your A story is your dominant story. So this will get the most page real estate and the most screen time. So just be aware of the balance. Your B story is very often a personal look at your A story, or your B story can involve a different character, and your C story is a smaller version. Your B and your C story ideally thematically elevate what's going on in your A story. What spec should you write? So I know many people on the private Facebook page are in a quandary over which spec to write. So that, again, this goes into strategy. So you want to think about, if I were to choose any 3 shows that I want to staff on, what would those shows be? Then you want to create a writing portfolio that goes toward that goal. Now, if getting into a fellowship is your goal, then you really want to think about what shows are on the different networks with the fellowship programs, and what is an ideal script that will transfer to the most shows staffing-wise. Think about what shows you are the most passionate about. What shows will be a step toward getting you a job on the show that you want to be staffed on? What specs will get you staffed for certain network writing programs? So the popular comedy specs. Now, that website that I posted on the private Facebook page doesn't have the latest, but I think last year they posted the newest specs that were hot and not hot and all the different levels on March 23rd. So we'll keep our eye open for when that new list comes out. Right now, popular comedy specs: You're the Worst on FX, Silicon Valley, Better Things, Life in Pieces. I have Girls down here, but actually I know that Girls is in its last year, so I wouldn't recommend that. Any show that you know it's in its last year, I would not recommend writing. You want longevity. You want your script to be good at least for 2 years. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Mom, Veep, Transparent, Blackish, Anger Management, New Girl episodes, Broad City, The Goldbergs, Orange is the New Black, Unbreakable, Kimmy Schmidt, Fresh Off the Boat, Master of None. Now, there might be some other shows on here that are in the last year. So if you are, I encourage you to research and know whether the show is in its last year before deciding if you're going to write it or not. Popular drama specs are Billions, Jessica Jones, House of Cards, The Blacklist, Sleepy Hollow, Elementary, The Americans, Masters of Sex, I know is in its last year, so I wouldn't write it. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Arrow, The 100, Blind Spot, Agent Carter, Homeland, Luther, Rectify, Empire, Gotham, How to Get Away with Murder, The Affair, Leftovers, Supergirl, I think Leftovers is in its last year, Jane the Virgin, Lucifer, In the Path. Now, if you don't see the show that you love on here, don't worry about it. These are just coming off of lists, and off of Writers on the Verge and what we've seen in there. So there certainly are other shows that are out there that aren't on the list. Writing the TV spec, choose a spec that will be the best choice to get you where you want to go in your career. Be clear on what you want. For example, if you were to pick 3 shows, as I mentioned, that you want to staff on, what would they be? What shows best reflect your emotional truth? So that's what you want to think about. You want to think about your emotional well. What has happened to you in your life that gives you something to say? And what show do you identify with the most in recognizing that you have a very full well of story to tell for that type of show? Writing the TV spec, start by writing a logline for each of your storylines. Why am I telling you this? I believe that your logline is your roadmap. It will tell you what works and what doesn't work about your story. Nailing your logline will make the writing process much smoother. Logline formula, setup of who, create empathy. Empathy is for your central character. Dilemma, action, goal, twist of irony. Break down the show. So there are many people who can only get the pilot episodes of the script they're writing. So don't worry about this. I'm actually going to give you a breakdown that I did this week for the first show in the second season of You're the Worst, to give you an idea of how you can break down shows on your own and start identifying story points. You really don't need the produced script in order for that to happen. Now, know if you're in Los Angeles, you can go to the Writers Guild Library on 3rd Street and get almost any script you need. So know that you have that resource if you are local. Break down the average number of pages per act. Take note of how the act out ends in terms of the goal and the obstacle. Take note of the number of story arcs. Take note of how many storylines there are. What is the show about? Is the protagonist the same character every week, or do they change? Is there an antagonist? Adding your voice. So certainly when you look at breaking down the script, you're looking at the characters and what makes them unique and different. And if you identify with some of these characters through your own story, this is an opportunity for you to utilize your voice. You add your voice to your TV spec by identifying your emotional truths and adding fiction to them in your character beats. What character journey in the spec do you identify with the most on an emotional level? Voices of the characters. Make sure that you get to know the voices of the characters through habits, the way they talk, their emotional responses, their phobias, etc. Make sure to differentiate your characters. You never want people to look at your spec script and say that all of the voices of the characters sound the same. Identifying your emotional truth. Now, actually, and that goes for your pilot script as well, you want to differentiate your voices. It's so, so important. Identifying your emotional truth. What void is filled by your pursuit of writing? So you want to start thinking about these bigger questions, because it's going to help you tap into your emotional truth, and understanding and knowing how to utilize your emotional truth is really where your voice comes from. What happened in your past that gave you something to say. So actually, I would love for an exercise on the private Facebook group this week as an icebreaker, if anyone wants to participate, for you to put 1 or 2 life moments where your world was turned upside down and reality as you knew it shifted and gave you something to say. So I want you to think about those moments, and if anyone wants to share those moments, I highly encourage it. Creating wounds and flaws. What is the wound that drives the character? What is the flaw that gets in the way? So this, again, will be something that you will hear me go into over and over and over again, getting in your own way. So to help you start thinking about how to identify flaws that come from an emotional truth, I want you to ask your question, how do you get in your own way of success? Could you draw from this emotional truth and use it as a flaw in one of the characters that you are writing? Story structure. So my book, Storyline, I highly recommend that you either read all of my books or one or two of my books. I highly recommend them because they will help reinforce a lot of this system so that it won't feel so foreign to you. Storyline, I wrote my book as a result of a few pivotal life moments in my own story, a long relationship that ended in a short marriage and represented the death of the fairy tale, and a job that came to an end in mid-pursuit after 15 years with two sister companies. So setup and storyline in my book, Storyline, this section covers log lines and universal life moments. This is where story begins. If you learn to start each script with a strong logline first, you will be amazed at how it transforms your writing process. With regards to your universal life moments, this is about learning to identify them, draw from them, and fictionalize them in your writing. My overall message with Storyline is to encourage you to go deep inside yourself and find your gold, explore your caves without fear, separate yourself from your shame, detach from your ego, and connect with your spirit. Believe in the power of you. My philosophy on story structure. So, these are terms that some of them may feel strange if you haven't heard them used in context before. Others will feel very natural to you. Excuse me. I want you to recognize that my writers that I've worked with that have had the most success have really absorbed this philosophy. And this philosophy that I came up with came from great writing. So this came from me analyzing Emmy-nominated, Golden Globe-nominated, and Oscar-nominated scripts and extracting this story system, which is every story starts with a powerful trigger incident, or some people may refer to this as inciting incident, that pushes the character into a dilemma. And this is where you create empathy and a rooting factor. The dilemma should not be an easy choice. Usually the choice is, do they fall victim to the fall, or do they be active? If it is their choice is to be active, what is the goal that attached is to that? And what I've discovered is the goal, the choice that they make in the dilemma is what defines the goal in the story arc. And then every action and obstacle and stake need to link back to that goal. And it's when we don't know what the goal is that the story doesn't work. And when the goal is achieved, then you go into the resolution. Dilemma. This section goes into what I consider to be one of the most important parts of your story, a powerful dilemma that leads to the establishment of a clear goal. By going into dilemmas and goals you faced in your own life, you will learn how to draw from them to help you build dilemmas in your story. Your backstory is also part of this. Action. In this section, you will learn how a powerful dilemma and clear goal will lead your central character into action. By going into your own life experience and looking at your pursuits, the obstacles you face, the successes and failures you've experienced, and the themes and symbolism that have emerged in your own life, you will see how to utilize these, add fiction to them, and work them into your writing. Goal. In this section, we will look at life after the attainment of the goal, both in regards to your own life and the lives of your characters. What are the messages that come up in your life? How can you bring them into your story? So I'm going to go into a breakdown, and these are just some general guidelines to think about with each act of the drama and the comedy script structure-wise. Teaser, you're thinking about setting up of a strong trigger incident that leads your central character into a powerful dilemma. So your series trigger is going to set up your season 1 arc, and your pilot arc is typically one step toward that. Your series trigger is what's set up in your teaser. It very often sets up the personal dilemma that will be linked to the professional pursuit in the pilot arc. Or it can set up both the personal and the professional dilemma that will link to your pilot arc. Act 1, continue to set up storylines, set up conflict, set up external stakes, and act with clear goal established for the A story or obstacle to the goal. Act 2, have central characters in each story arc actively pursuing goal and act on obstacle to the goal. Act 3, when your characters get over one obstacle, create new ones. Keep escalating the obstacles and the external stakes. Maybe the goal shifts or the motivation shifts for achieving the goal. Send your character in a new direction. Act 4, move toward your all is lost moment moments in your storylines. Your all is lost moment is when your central character takes an action toward the goal, hits an obstacle, and is as far away as possible from achieving the goal. Act 5, as a result of hitting rock bottom, your central character should have an aha moment, and then take an action at the top of your last act that leads toward the achievement of the goal. And we should feel the growth in the character from the beginning to the end. Comedy structure. Comedy teaser setup of world and dilemma in your A story. I've certainly seen different variations of teasers. There's definitely a structure in both comedy and drama where you start with the consequence, but recognize, as I'll show you in Atlanta, when you start with the consequence, it still links back to the series trigger dilemma and the pilot trigger dilemma pursuit. So that's something that we will definitely go into in this course. So comedy structure teaser, set up world and dilemma in the A story. Act 1, stem a goal from the dilemma in the A story. Set up dilemma in B story. End on obstacle to goal in A story. Act 2, start act by escalating obstacle in the A story. Show obstacles in A, B, and C story. And act on A or B story in jeopardy. Act 3, hit more obstacles with goals and then resolutions in each story. End on the A story. External stakes, make sure that you develop your arc for the external stakes. Internal stakes, very often the series season 1 arc is what sets up the internal stakes. Make sure that we know why your character wants what they want. Story questions for your spec. So these are questions for you to think about. What is your logline for your A story? What is the goal that stems from the dilemma in your A story? Do your obstacles, escalating obstacles, turning points, and all is lost moments connect back to the goal? Do you feel the goal in every scene? I think the biggest mistake writers make is losing sight of the goal, so that we're halfway through the story and we totally forget what the central character wants. So be very cognizant of this. How does your B story elevate your A story? Do you set up your stakes early on? What is the worst that could happen if your central character does not achieve the goal? Is your central character active in pursuit of the goal? Do you have an unexpected twist? If not, could you? What do you want to say with your story? So this is huge. This really, for me, if I don't understand what the writer is trying to say with their story, they lose me. So I really want you to be very clear on what you're saying with your story, what inspired it, what is universal about it that you feel will appeal to the masses. And probably one of the biggest story notes given out there from the studio and network is the note, why now? Why are we joining the story when we are? What is driving your central character to succeed? This could go into the emotional stakes and the philosophical stakes. When you're thinking about what motivates your central character, think about whether there is something his or her subconscious that connects to the goal due to a past wound. By solving the goal, they not only help others, they help themselves. How does the world see your central character? So this is something really to think about too in creating conflict. Is there a gap between how the world sees your central character and how your central character sees him or herself? So this is a great story technique to play with in thinking about your story. There is fertile ground to explore in this gap between these two world views. Does your central character achieve the goal? So in drama, in television, the goal is always achieved. So be aware of that. In comedy, I would say it's achieved in the A story goal is achieved in 95% of the comedies. I always do recommend that the goal is achieved. In television, are good to show growth in your character from the beginning to the end. All your pivotal points need to connect back to your goal. Questions. Is the question coming out of the opening dilemma strong enough to drive the episode? You want to end your act on questions and answer them at the top of the next act. Does the resolution answer the question coming out of your opening dilemma? Next week, the assignment for next week is to write the outline for your spec script. For level 3, your outlines are due Saturday, March 11th by midnight. I will also attach, I will send an email out attaching some produced episode outlines for shows that are on the air. I don't have a lot of, I only have a few, but it will help give you a general guideline of how to write your outline. Spec outline formulas vary for outlines as well, and this would be spec and pilot outline. I recommend that you write a paragraph for each scene and have 1 or 2 lines of dialogue in it. Length varies. Dramas can be anywhere between 7 and 15 pages. Comedies are usually between 5 and 8 pages. Slide presentation. Please do not forward any of these presentations, video tutorials, or class recordings to anyone. These are for your eyes and ears only. And I know, you know, again, I want everyone to feel safe in this community. I want your ideas to feel safe. And I also want to know that, you know, the system is only being utilized by the people who paid for this system and are a part of this program. Mindset. Know that you can do this. You can write a spec that leads you to get representation if you don't have it, and you can get staffed, and you can sell your pilot. I have seen it done over and over and over again, so I am a believer. So you need to believe in your gift. So I'm going to go into a little discussion on this comedy. I may, since I know we're running a little long on this video, I may do post the blind spot video on the Facebook page and discuss it then. But here is Atlanta. Actually, I'm going to start this over because I realize, oops. I guess I can't start it over. Okay, so now that we have sound and everything optimized, we're going to go into share screen. This is Zoom. Oh, I guess we can't do that with the audio. Okay, I apologize for this, guys. We'll have this kink worked out by next week. Okay, so we are going to go into Atlanta, and now the video image should work well. I'll go into slideshow. Oh, and of course it's started all over. This is all part of technical process that we learn during this process. And this is going to be the first year where I'm really excited that I'll be able to show you clips, whether I do it during the slideshow or I post them on Facebook. It's all so that you can learn. So here we go. So this show started with the consequence. So I want you to take note of that consequence, and it's going to link to the episode Trigger and Dilemma that leads to the pursuit. And know if for any reason you're having trouble hearing this or anything, I'm going to post it on the private Facebook page as well. Okay, so what I want you to notice about this clip, you're going to hear the words over and over and over again from me, trigger, dilemma, pursuit. So this clip, Atlanta starts with the consequence where we hear the gun go off, and then it links to what happens in the episode trigger and dilemma that leads to the pursuit that leads to that consequence. So the trigger and dilemma is that the woman who he has the baby with wants money for rent, or he's going to be kicked out of the house. So the stakes are he's going to be kicked out. And then the recognition that Paperboy is his cousin is what launches him in the first action toward the goal of finding a situation that is going to give him money so that he can contribute to his family and stay in his home. So I just want you to think about that. I'm going to post the blind spot clip and we will talk about that. In closing, thank you for joining week 1 of my 10-week Storywise TV Spec and Pilot Teleseminar. I am honored to be on this journey with you. I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday night.